We're out here riding the new 2022 YZ250X. Thought I'd give you a little bit of my thoughts on it. This is my third ride out on it now. Came off, been riding a KTM 250XC for, 6 years now. And one of my good friends, Rex, that I ride with, he's had these YZ250X for quite a while. And I've had a lot of opportunity to ride his. In fact, he's got a couple of them, and so sometimes I just spend the whole day riding his. And I've really liked the bike, thought I'd get one of my own to try out. Just wanted to give you guys a little bit of a kind of my first take after riding this for 3 rides or so. I'm not very good at talking and riding. So just want to give you guys some of my impressions after making the switch here. Just one thing I want to get out of the way really quick. Every time I watch a review comparing these 2 bikes or reviewing the YZ250X, seems like a lot of guys spend a lot of time on the fact that there's no hydraulic clutch and no electric start. So you know, I'm getting a little older, so I've been riding for a long time. I've kick-started bikes up until 6 years ago when I got my KTM, so really, especially on a 252 stroke, not having an electric start isn't a huge issue to me. Yeah, when we get doing some technical terrain, every once in a while there's a sticky spot where it'd be nice to have an electric start, but that's very rare, so I'm not going to worry about that. The difference between this clutch and the hydraulic clutch and the time I spent on it, maybe I'm just not as picky. I do like to abuse the clutch. I pull in the clutch all the time, every corner, probably more than I should, but that's just the way I ride. But I haven't noticed any real big difference. Clutch pull, pretty similar, maybe a little harder on the YZ, but nothing major. And I really haven't felt any significant clutch fade compared to my KTM. So getting those out of the way. The other thing is a counterbalance motor. You know, I don't know. When I get riding these, it takes me 10 minutes and I don't really notice the vibration, so if you're sensitive to that, maybe that'd be an issue. The other thing is my KTM was a carbureted KTM, so I'm not comparing fuel injection, so I've been on the TPI bike just a little bit, but not much, not enough to really give any opinion one way or another. So there we go, getting those things out of the way. Okay, some of the first things that I noticed riding this bike versus the KTM is, of course, the suspension. The KYB suspension is awesome. You guys have heard it 100 times and know that. It's plush, it's compliant, and yet it takes the big hits really well. I ride a variety of terrain. We're on some kind of nice, flowy single track today. A few little technical spots, but mostly, for the most part, not too big a deal. When you talk technical terrain, I guess that's all subjective. I know a lot of people who consider this very technical terrain, but you know, compared to the kind of hard enduro type riding that we're doing more now, this isn't really technical, but it's a super fun trail to ride. I like to ride this single track. I still like to get out in the desert and rail. I like to ride through, you know, fast, sections and stuff, and I do occasionally get on the motocross track. I'm not a super aggressive moto rider, but I do have a little track at my house I like to ride. So the YZ really kind of fits all of those really well, as does the KTM XC models, and that's why I bought that XC, and that's why I've been on one for 6 years, because I love that bike. Very versatile bike, but the YZ, the suspension, I can set it up. With my KTM, it seemed like when I got it to where it felt really good on these trails and in the more technical stuff, then it was a little soft on the moto track, you know. If I got it set up for the moto track, it didn't feel as good on the trails, but this one, had it out here on the trail, been around my track and my little single track desert course and at my house, and the suspension just feels really good in all those areas. I did have the suspension on my KTM once, revalved and valved for me, so we did have that set up. We're talking just the stock KYB stuff here. I set my sag, and I haven't even really messed with the clickers much yet, because I like to kind of get a bike and ride it for a little bit before I make too many changes, just to kind of get a feel for it. Sometimes all you feel when you switch bikes is something different, not something necessarily better. So I like to adjust my riding to the bike for a little bit and then start making the changes. So suspension, I think, is a plus, but you know, there's a lot of options to get your suspension done, and you can make that KTM pretty good. I think, to me, the biggest thing on this YZ is that it is the chassis and the handling, and everybody's a little different, so maybe this isn't the case for everybody, but the bike just seems to fit me. I feel really comfortable right away on it, the ergonomics, and then the handling of it. I feel way more balanced on the bike, and it feels more nimble to me. It just, like, I don't know, it feels sharper and more accurate in the corners, and I just feel like I'm one with the bike more. It just feels good. Cornering and everything, and that's something that, again, it might be just more subjective. It may just be me, my frame build. The cockpit feels better. I'm a shorter rider. I'm only, what, 5'9", 155 pounds. So I don't know, maybe it just fits me better, but that's one thing that I really noticed, that unlike suspension and power characteristics, it's a little bit tougher to change. So yeah, the handling, just the sharp handling, to me just works really good. Okay, so let's go to power. Okay, so gathering my thoughts here. Oh, we got a McDonald's hamburger in the road. These trails are all cow trails originally. We're grateful for the cows for making this a nice single track trail. Anyways, I was going to talk about the power. That's an area where I noticed a bit of a difference too. And the power, and more so the power delivery. Again, I was riding a 250XC. The reason I ride the 250s is because I like the faster revving, snappier power of the 250 over the 300. That suits me and what I like. A lighter feel to the power. So I really like the 250 power. On this YZ, the power, it feels, it goes through the power band faster. The bike revs faster than the KTM. So it wants to break the back tire loose a little bit more. I'm still running on the stock Dunlop tires. I'm gonna switch. The last tire that I had on my KTM was Tusk Recon with a hybrid tire, and I really like that tire, so I'd like to switch tires and kind of see how much difference that makes. But as of right now, you know, this thing is so fun in this stuff because it just revs so quick, very lively, just a fun feel. But when I get into a little bit more technical terrain, it makes it a little bit more of a handful. I think the KTM got just a little bit better traction. Again, I think that there's a lot of mods that can be done. You know, people are putting on different heads, Apex heads, Arcade Tank heads, to smooth out the power, make it a little more broad. Flywheel weight is a very common mod on these 250Xs. Like I say, I'll ride the bike more and see how I adjust my riding to the bike before I make many of those changes. Like I said before, I use the clutch a lot, and so I'm very comfortable modulating the clutch to keep the wheel spin under control, holding the flywheel to kind of keep the bike getting traction. But here we go into a very loose section with some roots, and I just kind of lug it down a little more, use the shift up a little sooner to kind of keep that power going to the ground. You know, takes a little more work, but it's such a fun feel on the trails. I just don't know if I want to switch it yet, but maybe we'll be adding a flywheel weight soon. Rex is actually riding with an Arcade Tech head today, so we're gonna kind of get a chance to see how that works. So far he's been impressed with it, so we'll kind of see how that goes. But as far as the overall power, they feel pretty similar. I don't feel like there's a huge power difference. The one thing I do notice is on this YZ, let me just slow down here, like when I get off idle like this and stuff, it just like, the thing does not want to die. Neither, and my KTM was awesome this way too, but this one, like, let's see, like there's third gear, you know, now we're going back in second, going up this hill, and it just, like, it will do this better than my KTM. It's amazing. And it's just a little dab of the clutch, and we're back up and going, but it does burst through that faster than the KTM did. So I don't know if I'm describing it really well, but that's kind of what I noticed, the difference in the power between the two. Again, like I said, you know, to me, chassis and stuff is something that's harder to change that I really like. And on the YZ, the power delivery, you can adjust that. Power valve mods, adjusting your power valve on the KTM heads, porting if you want to. But that's kind of my take on the YZ versus the KTM. One other thing I would say that I really noticed is this YZ, it feels lighter. It has such a light, ample feel to it. Like the front end gets light, way better. It just feels lighter. I don't know that it's really any lighter on the scales, but it feels way lighter to me, and adds to the fun factor. So we'll keep testing it. We'll keep riding it and see. Those are just some of my initial impressions. We'll get it on some more technical, hard enduro terrain and see how I like it as I get used to the power. So anyways, there's my take on the YZ250X. Okay, a couple more things I wanted to add to my kind of initial review of this bike. I thought about after I shut off the video. One is on the power delivery again. Some of this obviously is going to be subjective. I'm riding in Utah and we're pretty dry, you know. We're not riding the wet, snotty conditions a lot. We did have some rain a couple weeks ago. We were riding the same trail. A lot of fun because it's really slippery, wet, muddy. But you know, most of the time it's fairly dry for us. And so, you know, I talk about the power, you know, running through, maybe being a little more peaky. Doesn't bother me too much. But if you're riding that wet, slick terrain like they get like Pacific Northwest, some of those areas, it might be a bigger deal to you. Another thing I just wanted to mention was, I mentioned earlier, I'm a little shorter. This bike does feel a little taller than my KTM. And so, for those of you who are vertically challenged, you know, every once in a while it's kind of nice to have a little shorter seat height to stick your foot down, be able to hit the ground. But for the most part, not a big deal. And then I did want to talk about gearing. There's been a lot of talk about gearing on these bikes. Like I said, I'm coming from a KTM XC model, and so that's what I have to compare to. The YZ, I think the stock gearing was a little tall for the riding I like to do. I went to a 13-tooth front sprocket. I want to go a little lower, so I just ready to switch to a 12-tooth. I don't know, we'll see. On these trails it feels awesome. Obviously it's going to limit my top end a little bit. I kind of try and, a lot of the trails we ride, we don't ride a lot of the open roads and stuff, and so we're going not super fast. If you're riding a lot of transfer roads and stuff, you might, I don't know how much it'll slow down. I haven't really tried it yet, but anyways, 12-tooth on the front feels pretty good. We'll see where I end up. Maybe we'll end up with a 13 on the front and maybe a little taller on the rear. I don't know. But just thought I'd mention that on the gearing. I did gear this down a little bit. And then just the last thing is, talked about the handling, talked about how nimble, light it feels, talked about the power, how it runs through really fast. It makes for a super, super fun bike. That's one thing I've noticed on these trails. I'm just loving it. It's so fun to ride. That's why I'm a little hesitant to change things until I get a better feel for the bike. Because I like the zippy feel, you know, I like the nimble feel, so we'll see how much it really gets up in technical terrain, but right now, it just is so fun. At the end of the day, that's why we ride, for fun. So, there you go, that's kind of my 2 cents after putting a few hours on this bike, and having ridden Rexes for a little bit too. We'll see how it goes. If people seem to like these videos, then maybe I'll try and make some more and update you. If 5 of you watch and are bored to death, then maybe I won't. So, if you watch this far, thanks for watching. I'm not a video editor. I don't intend to be. I like to spend my time riding the bike, working on bike, not editing videos. So this is probably going to be kind of raw, not very, what would you call it, cinematic, but if you made it this far, congratulations. Thanks for watching.